Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to a special review for Bryan Adams' Reckless 30th Anniversary Edition box set. The original album came out in 1984, but this edition of it here came out in 2014. And we're going to dive into the whole contents of this thing in just a bit. But before we do, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with a special review for Bryan Adams' Reckless. So a little bit of history here, a little bit of context that leads up to the release of the album itself. So following Bryan's stint as lead vocalist for the band Sweeney Todd, which he actually joined when he was only 16 years old, and then recorded one album with them, If Wishes Were Horses. In 1977, he would release his debut self-titled released album when he was 20 years old in 1980. And in 1981, he followed it up with You Want It, You Got It. And that one there featured a couple hits on it and started to make some waves for him, Lonely Nights and Fits You Good. But it would actually be his third album, Cuts Like a Knife, in 1983, that he finally began to break through internationally. And that one there featured the hits Straight from the Heart and of course the title track Cuts Like a Knife, one of the big songs that's always remained a big hit for him. And of course, though, it's really the fourth album, the one we're going to talk about here, Reckless, where he became a household name when it was released in 1984, and of course a star around the world. And so the album itself is definitely considered to be his most successful solo album. It reached #1 on the Billboard 200 album chart in the US. It was the first Canadian album to sell 1 million copies in Canada. In the US, it sold over 5 million copies, and eventually around the world it has sold over 12 million copies. The album itself was so successful it released 6 singles from it, and that was kind of unheard of at the time. Run to You, Somebody, Heaven, Summer of '69, One Night Love Affair, and It's Only a Love. And so all 6 of these singles reached the top 15 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. And that's kind of the thing. Sometimes bands will release lots of singles, but they're not really all hits. In this case, all 6 of those were actual hits for him. And, despite being recorded in the 80s, this album, in my opinion, is a timeless classic. It's one of those rock albums that from start to finish, it's good, no matter when you hear it. Even some of the deep cuts on this thing are just as good as the big hits, like She's Only Happy When She's Dancing. And with only 10 tracks on it, 6 of those being big hits from the album itself, this album for me is basically like a greatest hits. There's just so many great songs on it when you're listening to it. You almost don't need a greatest hits because of what this album contains. And each of the tracks that are on here have a lot of life and energy. I feel Bryan Adams, when he was doing this, he was young, hungry, and he sang every one as though that was going to be the big hit off of the album. You can just kind of feel that within the performance of each song on here. And I honestly think that no matter which song had been released of those 10, any one of those would have been a hit, could have been a hit, and I believe should have been a hit off of this album at the time. But let's talk about this, the box set. So this is the 30th anniversary, released in 2014, 4-disc box set, breaks down into 2 CDs, 1 DVD, and 1 Blu-ray. And disc 1 in here is a CD. It's the album itself remastered, and it's expanded with 7 studio bonus tracks. And that's the real meat and potatoes here, in my opinion. The 7 bonus tracks are outtakes from the session, so they're not just demos or sketch ideas or things of that nature. They are fully completed songs, making this album a nice, real extended edition when you put this thing on to listen to it all the way through. And now most of those 7 outtakes were later recorded by other artists, getting official releases that way. So when you put this on, you may actually recognize some of them. And I did, and it took me a long time to realize that they weren't because of Bryan Adams, they were actually because of other artists, which is why I recognized them. So Let Me Down Easy was recorded by Roger Daltrey of The Who. Teacher Teacher was recorded by 38 Special and actually released in a movie soundtrack. The Boys Night Out was recorded by Crocus. Draw the Line was recorded by Ted Nugent. Play to Win was recorded by a band called Fast Forward. And the song Reckless, the title track, which didn't even make the album itself, was recorded by Loverboy, although they changed the lyric to call the song Dangerous. And then there's one song on here that was not recorded by another artist, at least not one that I know of, Too Hot to Handle. So those are the 7 bonus tracks on here, all really good. And so when listening to this thing, there's now 17 track studio album, all recorded from those sessions, which makes the album even better in my opinion. Disc 2, which is another CD in here, is the BBC concert. It's live at the Hammersmith Odeon, 1985. It's got 15 tracks and is a previously unreleased live recording. Disc 3 is a DVD. It's not the live show. That would have been nice if they had included that in here, but what this is very cool. It's called Reckless the Movie, and it features 8 music videos in here. This Time, which is actually from Cuts Like a Knife, but it kicks things off as a nice beginning. Then it moves into Summer of '69, Somebody, Kids Wanna Rock, Heaven, Run to You, One Night Love Affair, and It's Only Love. All of these songs are interlaced with an overarching story, so it really does feel like a little mini 30-minute movie where they're all connected and tied together. The last one, It's Only Love, is a bonus video at the end, but the rest of those all have an overarching story and are very cool. I always like when bands do that, tie all their videos together and make them relate like that. And then disc 4 is a Blu-ray in here, and it features a 5.1 surround sound mix of the album itself. So let's take a look at this thing, because it's a pretty cool package. So front cover there, spine of this thing, and the back side breaking down everything that's on it. And I like that the hype sticker itself is actually stuck on this here. That way I can always refer back to it. I like those things. If they're on the plastic, I'll cut them off and stick them inside. But I actually enjoyed that it was on this one here. And so it's a slipcase version where the thing slides out like this, and so you get a different shot like that in color, which is nice. And then book style version of this. And when we open it, that disc is actually in my player right now because I was enjoying it for the review, but you'll see that 2 discs are up front, the CDs, and the DVD and Blu-ray are in the back. And so then the book itself is in here in the middle of this with lots of great photos, but there's nice historical content and outtake shots, pictures there with Jim Valance. There's an interview with him in here, but there you go. So the whole history of the album and stuff like that is throughout this thing, making it really worthwhile getting this book and being able to get that whole thing. There's the interview with Bryan and Jim Valance in here, his co-writing song partner. And then of course we get all the lyrics and everything to it in here, and just all the content and stuff is in here as well. Breaking down, who recorded on it, played on it, and that sort of stuff, as well as for all the bonus tracks and everything. Sometimes you don't always get that, but there you go. So bottom line with this album here, in my opinion, it's a highlight within the Bryan Adams catalog. His long storied career, this album here still stands out amongst all that he has done. And for me, this album never gets old. It's always welcome when I hear something from it. It's never one of those things like a particular song has gotten worn out for me. Not always the case with some other artists. But, some albums defy the time in which they were made, and I think this is one of those albums that does that. This is an album that goes beyond 1984 in that time period, and yes, it may have a 1980s sound to it, but it still lives up to the quality of the album that it was at the time today. And so, in my opinion, if you're new to Bryan Adams and you've never checked out this album, this is the time to go ahead and check this album out. But, equally so, if you're a longtime fan of Bryan Adams like me, perhaps it's time to break this album back out, relive those fun memories, growing up with Bryan. That album and like songs, the Summer of '69, always bring back those really great memories, especially the first time I saw those music videos on MTV. And hopefully it'll do the same for you. But there you go. That is Bryan Adams' Reckless 30th Anniversary box set edition review. Hopefully you've enjoyed that and the breakdown of the content and the unboxing and everything and so forth. Now, for related videos, I'm going to leave a link in the description below for you to check out. Bryan has just put out a brand new album, So Happy It Hurts. I've done a full album review of this. If you want to check out what he sounds like today and what he's doing and how it compares, do check the links for description, or the description for links to that video. And certainly if you've enjoyed this video, consider sharing it out on social media. Help spread the word. I would greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure Bryan Adams would do the same. All right, everyone, take care, have a great day, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye-bye, everyone.